Her daughter-in-law mocked her shoes in front of the whole church. Ginny Barron didn't blink, didn't rise to the bait. Instead, she wore those shoes straight into a courtroom battle. By nightfall, the house was hers again, locked and sealed. She spent a lifetime as their mother-in-law. Now, she was the owner. And when they tried to steal her legacy, the law answered for her. Before we begin, may I ask, where in this big, beautiful world are you listening from? It's always a quiet honor to know who's sharing this space. Drop it in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. The morning sun filtered through the stained glass windows of St. John's Episcopal, casting jewel-toned ribbons across the pews. Ginny Barron stood just inside the arched wooden doors, her gloved hands folded over her handbag, waiting for the hush before the processional. Her black dress, pressed and simple, didn't call attention. But the shoes, those shoes, did. Soft brown leather, lovingly polished despite the deep creases across the top. The right heel still bore the faint nick from where her late husband had caught it in a cellar step 30 years ago. Ginny had worn them every Easter since he passed. She didn't expect applause, just silence and memory. Tara's voice, as always, shattered both. "Did the 1800s call?" she hissed, one seat down from her husband, Blake. "She's wearing their shoes." Blake gave a stiff chuckle, eyes fixed on the hymn book like it could save him. Maya flinched beside him, her thumbs gripping the edge of her skirt. And from 3 pews back, Dolores Cray turned slowly, like a cat that had heard a mouse squeak in the wrong direction. Ginny didn't turn around, didn't even blink. She glanced down at the scuffed toes, flexed her ankles gently, and lifted her chin. Her lips pressed together, not in offense, but as if anchoring something heavy inside. The choir launched into "Come Thou Fount," voices blooming through the cavernous ceiling. Ginny sang low and steady, her alto quiet but unwavering. Tara sang louder, pointedly. Blake mouthed the words like they tasted off. By the time the final "Amen" echoed through the nave, the congregation shuffled toward the double doors, heels clicking, handshakes exchanged. "Love your shoes," Tara said sweetly as she passed Ginny by the coat rack, snapping a photo from waist down. "Vintage chic, right?" She winked, tapping her phone. Ginny met her eyes. They belonged to a better woman's husband. That shut Tara up. Briefly. Outside, beneath the hanging Spanish moss, families scattered to brunch or errands. Ginny walked with Maya to her rust-spotted sedan. The shoes made a soft tic-tac on the cobbled path, just loud enough to be noticed, just firm enough to be remembered. Maya kept her eyes forward. "You okay?" she asked. Ginny gave a small nod. "I'm old, not fragile." Maya hesitated, then opened the passenger door. "They look like they've seen a lot." "They've walked through better places," Ginny replied, sliding into the seat. The ride home was quiet until Ginny's phone buzzed, a notification from Facebook. Tara Barron posted a new photo. "Vintage or tragic? Dark Sunday style." The image was angled just right, Ginny's calves, the worn shoes, the shadow of a church pew behind her. Hundreds of likes, a stream of snide comments. Bless her heart. Those relics belong in a museum. When your fashion sense dies before you do. Another buzz. A text from Maya. Just one word. Cruel. Ginny didn't reply. She simply reached into the glove compartment and pulled out a tiny leather notebook, the one she used to keep track of estate records, tax dates, and birth announcements. She turned to the first blank page in months, wrote the date, then in her narrow cursive, "Mocked, publicly, over James's shoes." She underlined James twice. Then she closed the book and looked out the window, her eyes following the live oaks lining the streets, branches bowed like watchful witnesses. She whispered something, low and private, then added a final note under the line, "They think it ends at Sunday. They have no idea what Monday brings." The brunch table gleamed beneath the dappled sun on Tara's back porch, a mishmash of reclaimed wood and high-end mimosa glasses. A cheese board sat untouched while the guests nibbled cautiously at the candied bacon Tara had plated just for aesthetic. A realtor from downtown laughed too loudly, an Instagram influencer dabbed at her lips with a linen napkin. Ginny sat quietly at the far end of the table, the chipped rim of her porcelain teacup brushing her lower lip. Sweet tea? No lemon. Just the way she always took it. Her eyes moved slowly, deliberately, from the rosemary garnish to the guest list. Historic homes have soul, Tara said loudly, lifting her glass with a practiced little smile. And we just fell in love with this one. I mean, how many people can say they own a piece of the Savannah district? Several heads turned toward Ginny. She didn't flinch. Instead, she took a sip of tea, the faintest clink of porcelain on her front tooth the only sound she made. She set the cup down on its saucer and folded her napkin over her lap. Calm, unbothered, observing. Across the table, Blake leaned back in his chair, pulling his sunglasses down as if the sun, not the silence, was suddenly too much. Tara turned her attention back to her audience. We've been updating everything. Fixtures, floors, that horrible mint green in the hallway? Gone. It's modern now. More us. Ginny let the statement pass like a breeze. That afternoon, back in her modest bungalow 2 streets over, she laid out the original property agreement on her kitchen table, smoothing it with her hands like linen before an iron. The parchment was crisp, corners sharp. It was one of the few things Blake had managed to sign on time nearly 20 years ago. Use of property, conditional. No rent to be paid, provided upkeep and maintenance are sustained. Transfer of title, not executed. Ownership retained. Virginia M. Barron. Ginny exhaled slowly, pressing her palm over her name. She glanced toward the sink where dishes from her solo breakfast still waited. Outside, the neighbor's screen door slammed. Then a familiar tap-tap came up the steps. Dolores Cray didn't knock. She just let herself in. Well, she certainly played the part of a homeowner today, Dolores said, setting a grocery bag on the counter like she belonged there. That girl put out 3 types of olives, and not one apology. Ginny turned the paper toward her. Do you remember this? Dolores adjusted her reading glasses, squinted. Oh, I remember all right. That was when Blake still called you Mama instead of the old woman. And she hadn't sunk her teeth in yet. She hasn't seen this version in years, Ginny said, folding the paper back into its envelope. Dolores smirked. Funny how new paint don't mean new ownership. That evening, Maya came by just after sunset, still in her school hoodie, earbuds dangling. She held her phone low and hovered in the kitchen doorway, like she wasn't sure she had the right to be there. You saw the brunch post? She asked. Ginny nodded. She called it Our Forever Home. Maya shifted. They said they'd pay you back. For the plumbing and the roof. Eventually. Ginny looked up at her. Did they say that to you? Or in front of you? Maya hesitated. There's a difference. Ginny stood, moved past her to the window. The breeze carried the smell of jasmine and rust. She watched a beetle crawl across the porch railing. They're living in a house they didn't earn, speaking like they built it. Maya stepped forward, her voice quieter now. Are you going to let them keep it? Ginny didn't answer. Instead, she pulled down a shoebox from the hallway shelf, the one labeled Tax Year 03. Inside, receipts, estimates, and photos of the house's condition before Blake and Tara moved in. Water stains, sagging porch, termite damage. She ran her fingers over a brittle Polaroid of the cracked front steps. Then, carefully, she set the shoebox on the dining table and placed the signed agreement on top. The next morning, Ginny woke before the sun. No alarm, just instinct and wait. She boiled water for tea and pulled a file box from under the hallway cabinet, the one marked Barron Family, Legal. She placed it beside the shoebox from last night. Side by side, past and present stared her down. Inside the file box, she found what she was looking for. Blake's employment documents from when he worked as a junior property inspector in the early 2000s, tax filings, vehicle loan paperwork. Every signature neat, but unmistakably his, wide loops on the B, a lazy arc in the R's. The K always closed at the top. She placed those beside the property transfer form she had discovered last week, the one Tara had smugly referenced at brunch, but never handed her directly. Ginny stared at it under the soft kitchen light. The signature on the new document was wrong, too neat, too symmetrical. Her son's writing had always leaned left, like it was trying to escape the page. But this one stood stiffly upright, like a name posing in church clothes. She traced the pen stroke in the air. No variation, no pressure shifts. A digital trace, maybe. Or worse, a copy-paste job made by someone who didn't know him at all. She sat back, folding her arms. Her breath came steady, but slower now. Her hand reached for the phone. The number was still in her landline's memory. Russell Dean, her late husband's best friend. Retired judge, trusted like an oak tree in a storm. The line rang twice. "Virginia?" came his voice, groggy but sharp. "I need to show you something," she said. Not over the phone. "Courthouse Cafe?" he asked. Noon. The Courthouse Cafe still smelled like old paper and boiled eggs, but Ginny didn't mind. The familiarity steadied her. Russell was already seated by the window, his walking cane resting beside his chair like a loyal dog. He wore a wool vest and had a yellow legal pad in front of him, untouched. She slid the forged document across the table. He adjusted his glasses and took a long look. Then she slid the real ones, at least 5 of Blake's true signatures, right beside it. Russell frowned. That's not his hand," she said. "No, it's not. This..." He tapped the fake signature. "This is a template trace, either done with an e-signature platform someone doctored, or printed and traced by hand, then scanned back in." Ginny stared out the window, watching people bustle in and out of the courthouse lobby. "So it's fraud." "Worse," he said. "It's intentional fraud. Someone forged this, someone who either knew what they were doing or thought you didn't." He leaned back. "Who notarized this mess?" "No notary stamp. Just a digital confirmation code, all fake." Russell's jaw tightened. "And your name's not on any of it?" "Not a mention," she said. "They tried to scrub me like I was a broken window." Russell looked down at the form again, and then up at Ginny. "They're stupid," he said. Ginny gave the faintest smile. Arrogance usually is. Back at home, the light on Ginny's phone blinked. A new Facebook post from Tara Barron. Tara Barron is feeling accomplished with Blake Barron. Finally official homeowners, power couple Nauer Savannah life. The photo showed Blake and Tara holding a wine glass each on the front porch, their heads leaning together like they'd just won the lottery. Behind them, Ginny's old wind chime, the copper one James had given her for their 30th anniversary, hung twisted and dented. Ginny stared at the image, her face unreadable. Then she picked up her notebook again. Wrote in clean lines, "Forgery suspected, document obtained, Russell confirmed, digital trail unknown, for now." She tapped her pen twice, then added a line under it. "And they dared to toast with my wind chime still hanging." Ginny didn't knock. She stepped onto the wraparound porch like she owned it, because legally she still did. The copper wind chime above the doorway clinked mournfully in the breeze, its once polished edges now dulled and bent like something shrugged off and forgotten. She tested the handle. Unlocked. Inside, the house greeted her with the sour scent of leftover takeout and something damp. The foyer's once glossy hardwood had dulled under muddy footprints. The gallery wall Tara had boasted about on social media was cluttered now, crooked canvases, a cracked frame holding an abstract print that looked like spilled wine. Ginny stepped over a crumpled sock, past a half-eaten donut left on the hallway console. Through the living room, where throw pillows lay strewn like someone had lost a slow-motion argument. She didn't call out. This wasn't a visit, it was an audit. She moved room to room, cataloging without expression. The loose kitchen cabinet handle Blake said he'd tighten next weekend. The crusted baby bottle even though their child was 17. The fast food wrappers stacked like receipts in the corner of the dining room. But it wasn't until she reached the guest room, her room, that her breath caught. The bed was unmade, wrinkled sheets like someone had laid there without meaning to stay. Her framed wedding photo, James in his gray suit, her smile soft and secretive, was face down on the dresser. Dust had gathered on the glass. The corner of the frame was chipped. Ginny walked over, turned it upright, and smoothed the edge of the photo with her thumb. James's eyes still looked straight into hers, even from behind the frame. She sat on the edge of the bed. The mattress gave a little too soft now, worn down by use and neglect. In the silence, her phone buzzed. A text from Maya. "You okay?" Ginny didn't reply. She rose, walked to the kitchen, and tore a page from the notepad on the fridge, wrote in clean block letters, "Not your house, not your rules. V." She pressed the sticky note to the refrigerator door, right next to a magnet that read, "Boss Babe Energy." She turned to leave, and just then, a car pulled into the driveway. Ginny didn't duck or hide. She opened the front door and stepped out slowly, letting it shut behind her with a deliberate click. Through the windshield, she saw Tara in the passenger seat, flipping her phone toward Blake. Inside the car, Tara's thumbs moved rapidly. In Blake's phone, minutes later, "Tara, your mom was snooping again. She left a note on our fridge. Tara, she's losing it. I want the locks changed." Back inside, Maya returned home late from track practice, still wearing her cleats and dragging her backpack behind her. She headed to the fridge for a bottle of water and stopped cold. She saw the note, read it once, then again. Her lips parted, but no words came. She touched the edge of the sticky paper like it might dissolve if she blinked too hard. A faint smile ghosted across her face. "Finally," she whispered. Then she peeled it off the fridge and slid it into her backpack, carefully folding it between the pages of a battered civics textbook. Russell Dean's den smelled faintly of cedar, tobacco, and cold coffee, the scent of work done honestly and often. His desk was an organized chaos of yellow legal pads, law journals, and folders thick with precedent. A small brass lamp cast a circle of light as Ginny sat across from him, back straight, paper in hand. The screen glowed beside him. "I traced the IP," he muttered. "Ran it against the metadata from the filing log. Whoever submitted the deed did it from a residential ISP, one registered to Blake Barron's home address." Ginny didn't blink. "Their Wi-Fi router's name is still Baron Babe Wi-Fi?" Russell scoffed. "Classy." He leaned in, eyes narrowing. "And the notary?" "A digital proxy, flagged by the e-notarization platform last year. Their account was terminated for fraudulent activity, but this document slipped through before the system caught on." Russell tapped the keys, slowly, deliberately, then turned the monitor so Ginny could see. Transfer type, private party residential deed. Date filed, May 14th. Notarized by Marcy E. Revoked license, May 18th. IP address, 192.168.1.223. Registered, Blake Barron, 12 Sycamore Lane, Savannah, Georgia. Ginny studied the screen like it had said something personal. "It's not just fraud," she said finally. "It's strategy." Russell nodded. "And sloppy." She reached into her handbag and pulled out a sealed envelope. Her own complaint, signed, notarized, dated. "I'm filing. Today." At the Chatham County Recorder's office, Ginny stood beneath the flickering fluorescent lights with the quiet poise of a woman who had already won. She just needed the ink to say so. She slid the paperwork across the marble counter. The clerk, young but not clueless, scanned it, looked up, then back down. Twice. "Would you like to freeze the title while it's under review?" he asked, almost hesitant. "Yes," Ginny said. "Effective immediately." He stamped the top of the form with a satisfying thunk. The sound echoed down her spine like an organ chord in church. Across town, Tara's phone buzzed as she air-kissed her way through a meeting with a realtor named Lane, who wore velvet loafers and no socks. He glanced at his phone and frowned. "Hey, did you guys initiate a freeze on the deed?" Tara blinked. "What?" Lane turned his screen toward her. "We just got a halt notice, some kind of dispute filed against the property." She snatched the phone, read the notice again. Her voice dropped. "Number, that's not possible." Lane raised an eyebrow. "You sure everything's in order?" She forced a laugh. "Totally. Just must be some bureaucratic mix-up." Behind her eyes, panic bloomed. Blake's phone vibrated as he exited the bank. He saw his mother's name, then quickly saw it vanish. Call failed. He tried again. Blocked. He stood on the curb, staring at the gray sky above. The wind picked up, rattling a pair of campaign signs nearby. For the first time in a long while, he felt like a boy again, one who'd just broken something expensive and didn't know how to fix it. That afternoon, Dolores Cray walked up their driveway in her church flats, one hand on a plastic grocery bag, the other clutching a stiff white envelope bearing the courthouse seal. She knocked, waited, knocked again. Tara opened the door with a forced smile. "Dolores, what a surprise." Dolores handed her the envelope like it burned. "Just dropping off a little truth." Tara hesitated. "Excuse me?" "Complaint's been filed. Official now. I'd read it before the walls start talkin'." She walked away, groceries swinging by her side. Tara opened the envelope with fingers too tight to move gracefully. The words leapt off the page. "Filing party. Virginia M. Barron. Allegation. Fraudulent property transfer. Status. Under active review. Sale restrictions in effect." Her stomach twisted. The porch railing suddenly looked like it might collapse. Back at home, Ginny tucked a copy of the filing into her file drawer, right beside her husband's death certificate and her original deed. She exhaled, not relief, but readiness. She placed her shoes beside the door, the same ones she'd worn to church, the same ones Tara mocked. They'd walk her into court if they had to. On Friday evening, Savannah's air was thick with jasmine and pretense. Across Sycamore Lane, fairy lights blinked lazily in the canopy of a magnolia tree that had stood since Eisenhower's first term. Beneath it, the garden shed had been converted, badly, into a bar, with neon script reading "Sip Happens" mounted above a mini-fridge. Tara's homeowner's wine mixer had arrived. Ginny hadn't been invited, not even accidentally, but Dolores had. "Book club," she whispered with a smirk as she adjusted the brooch on her lapel. "Apparently I'm the diversity guest, widowed, grounded, and unsold." Ginny chuckled once. Dry. The two of them strolled slowly past the house, arms linked, just two churchwomen out for an evening walk. Inside the gate, Tara posed for a photo with two local influencers, one in a ruffled jumpsuit, the other already tipsy off canned rosé. A realtor handed out embossed business cards beside the cheese board. Someone plucked at an acoustic guitar near the fire pit, trying to look relaxed. A waiter, likely a cousin roped in for a favor, offered wine in acrylic glasses with gold rims. A chalkboard sign near the steps read, "From fixer-upper to dream estate. Barron House, built not bought." Ginny paused just long enough to read it. Dolores didn't say a word. She raised her phone and began filming with the subtlety of a spy. Panning across the backyard, the guests, the string lights that blinked like eyelids in denial. Tara noticed them. Her smile froze for a half-second before she waved, her fingers tight and theatrical. "Ladies," she called out. "Out for a stroll? Don't be shy. Come toast to our forever home." Dolores raised her hand in a distant wave, camera still rolling. Ginny didn't stop walking. When they turned the corner, out of sight, Ginny finally spoke. "Nothing they plant here will last." Dolores tucked her phone into her pocket like a holy artifact. "Your voice is gonna sound real nice dubbed over this footage." Back at her house, Ginny set her purse on the hall table and kicked off her shoes, leaving them perfectly lined near the door. She opened her laptop, the old one with the fingerprint smudge that never wiped clean, and typed a short email. To Russell Dean. Subject: Unauthorized use. Wine mixer event at 12 Sycamore, promoting home for sale and ownership during an active legal dispute. I trust you'll handle the cease and desist. VMB. It took Russell 6 minutes to reply. Consider it filed. Will serve by courier in the morning. R.D. Meanwhile, at the party, Tara's phone buzzed in her clutch. She ignored it. Too many champagne bubbles to chase. But Lane, the realtor, was already on his. His brow furrowed as he stepped away from the charcuterie table. You didn't mention active litigation," he said, reapproaching Tara. Tara blinked. "Excuse me?" Lane held out his phone. "Someone just filed a cease and desist. Use of property during ownership dispute. You might want to clarify that before we post photos." Tara laughed, brittle. "Ginny's just being dramatic. She doesn't actually have a case." Lane didn't laugh. "Courthouse didn't seem to think so." That night, Ginny sat on her porch in her robe, hair still pinned neatly, as thunder cracked miles away. Soft, distant, promising rain that might or might not come. Maya appeared quietly on the steps, her knees hugged to her chest, phone in hand. "Her stories are still up," she said, passing the phone over. Ginny scrolled. Fairy lights. Tara clinking glasses with Blake. "Here's to building a future." A caption in cursive over their kitchen island. "Dreams come true when you grind, Osher power couple." Ginny turned the phone back to Maya. "They're branding my home like it's a weekend rental." Maya hesitated, then whispered, "What are you gonna do?" Ginny stood, walked back inside, and came back with a manila envelope in her hands. She handed it to Maya. Inside were black and white printouts, the forged signature, the original deed, and a copy of the cease and desist letter Russell had filed that morning. Ginny looked at her granddaughter squarely. "I'm going to make sure they remember whose dream it was before they stole it." The Savannah County Courthouse stood like a stubborn old preacher, square-jawed, sun-worn, and impossible to ignore. Its sandstone columns rose against a steel-gray sky that morning, the kind that threatened rain but delivered silence instead. Ginny arrived early, not fashionably, not dramatically, just on time, in a black wool dress and the same scuffed brown shoes she'd worn to church the day Tara mocked her. She climbed the courthouse steps without looking back. Inside, the lobby buzzed quietly with low heels, muted coughs, and the rhythmic click of clerks filing future consequences behind glass. Ginny walked toward the security checkpoint, nodding once to the guard she'd known since his rookie years. He returned the nod without a word. She passed through the metal detector, holding her handbag like it held something sacred, and in some ways, it did. Ahead, at the end of the hall, courtroom 3 waited. A text lit up her phone. "Maya, you really going through with this?" Ginny replied with 2 words, "Every inch." In another part of town, Tara tugged on the sleeves of her ivory blazer in front of a mirror. It was structured, expensive, and new. Exactly the image she wanted the court to see. She adjusted her gold earrings, swept her hair into a high bun, and turned to Blake. "You look tired," she said. Blake didn't answer. He was tying and retying his tie like it might fix something deeper. "You told me she wouldn't go through with it," Tara said, voice tight. "She's bluffing, right?" Blake just sighed. "We'll see." They arrived 15 minutes late. Russell was already seated at the plaintiff's table when Ginny entered courtroom 3. He had a yellow folder open in front of him, fingers laced, expression unreadable. Dolores Cray sat quietly in the back pew, her purse on her lap like a hymn book. She didn't wave or nod, just watched Ginny walk past, pride hidden behind pressed lips. Ginny took her seat beside Russell and placed a small black notebook on the table, the same one she'd written in after church. Its corners were worn now. The resolve inside wasn't. The bailiff called the room to order. The judge entered, a woman with sharp glasses and no tolerance for theatrics. She sat, adjusted her robe, and looked directly at Ginny's side of the courtroom. Case number 234-5B, Barron v. Barron. Allegations of fraudulent transfer of residential property. Parties, state your names for the record. Ginny rose first. Virginia M. Barron, plaintiff. Blake stood slowly. Blake James Barron, defendant. The judge raised an eyebrow. "Mrs. Barron, is the opposing counsel present?" Russell stood. "Your Honor, I'm representing Mrs. Barron. The defendants are representing themselves." A beat of silence. Then the judge turned to Tara. "And you are?" Tara stood, eyes bright but voice brittle. I'm his wife. We live there. The judge raised a hand. "You're not the defendant. He is." Tara sat down, jaw clenched so tightly the muscle twitched. Outside, storm clouds gathered like gossip. Inside, Russell opened the yellow folder. "We intend to prove the following," he said calmly. "That the deed to the property at 12 Sycamore Lane was transferred without legal consent, using a forged signature, unauthorized notarization, and improper digital submission, all without the knowledge or approval of the legal owner, Virginia Barron." The judge glanced down at her docket. "And do you have exhibits to support this?" Russell's voice was cool. "Dozens." Blake shifted in his seat. Tara's nails clicked anxiously against her clutch. Ginny said nothing. Not yet. It happened on a Tuesday. The sky was clear, as if nature itself had paused to let the ugliness unfold. The video hit Maya's phone before lunch, sent anonymously from someone at school. The shaky footage captured Tara in workout clothes, hair in a clip, holding a flathead screwdriver in one hand and a steaming coffee in the other. She crouched by the front gate of 12 Sycamore, the wrought iron plaque just visible above her shoulder. V.M. Barron, EST 1992. The name had hung there for 31 years. Tara didn't struggle. The screwdriver slipped beneath the corner, and with one precise yank, the plaque snapped off. She looked at it for a beat, then dropped it into a garbage bag and laughed. "About time?" she muttered to no one. Then louder to the person filming, "History's cute. Ownership's cuter." Maya's thumb hovered over the pause button. Her stomach churned. She didn't forward the video. She drove to her grandmother's instead. Ginny was pruning her roses when Maya arrived, her hands covered in dirt and determination. She barely looked up. "They got to it," Maya said. Ginny clipped a stem, finally glancing over. "To what?" Maya held out her phone. Ginny didn't take it at first. She just wiped her gloves on a towel, then reached for it and pressed play. She watched the entire video in silence. No flinch, no raised brow. Only when Tara's voice said, "Ownership's cuter," did Ginny's mouth tighten. Not anger, not pain. Resolve. She handed the phone back. "Come with me." The engraver's shop smelled of brass dust and oiled wood. A bell chimed overhead as Ginny and Maya stepped inside. The walls were lined with nameplates, military memorials, pet tags, and door signs. A long glass case divided the room, behind which a man with silver hair and thick glasses looked up. "Miss Barron," he said. "Been a while." Ginny reached into her handbag and placed a folded piece of parchment on the glass. "I'd like this replicated. Same size, same shape, just one change." He leaned in, reading her notes. "Virginia M. Barron, original owner, 1992 to present." "Elegant," he said. "Subtle flex." "Make two," she said. 3 days later, Ginny walked into courtroom 3 with the new plaque wrapped in brown paper. Russell raised an eyebrow as she handed it to him without a word. He unwrapped it halfway and let out a quiet breath through his nose. "You want this in as Exhibit J?" he asked. "Label it, original owner markings," she said. "Include the engraving order receipt." Russell nodded. "It'll land harder than a closing argument." At 12 Sycamore, the front gate now sat bare, rust lines outlining where the plaque had once been. Tara hadn't replaced it with anything, just a clean slate where someone else's name had once claimed ground. Blake noticed the silence in the front yard more than usual. The magnolia tree had started dropping yellowed leaves. The wine mixer banners had been taken down, but their shadows lingered on the siding. He leaned against the porch column and rubbed his temples. "She's serious," he said quietly. Tara didn't look up from her phone. "She's bitter." Blake turned to her. "What if she wins?" Tara laughed. "She won't. She's just mad. It's a bluff." Blake didn't laugh. "What if it's not?" Tara finally looked at him, her expression hard. "Then maybe you should have read what you were signing before you let me file it." That landed. Blake didn't respond. He walked back inside and closed the door with more finality than force. That night, Ginny placed the second engraved plaque on her dining room hutch, next to James's photo, her church hat, and a copy of the property filing. She lit a small candle in front of it, then stood back, arms crossed. Behind her, Maya watched quietly. "Feels like a headstone," Maya said. "No," Ginny answered. "A boundary." The courthouse buzzed louder today. Not with chaos, with attention. Local reporters loitered near the entrance, pretending to check their phones. A paralegal with a podcast mic clipped to her collar whispered to her cameraman. A bailiff ran a damp rag across the seal above courtroom 3's door, like polishing justice itself. At exactly 9:01 a.m., Tara Barron made her entrance. Designer heels clicked across the marble like punctuation marks. Her tailored white suit fit like armor, bold, expensive, untouchable. A gold brooch winked from her lapel, shaped like a crown. She paused at the double doors and adjusted her sunglasses before sliding them into her clutch. Then she looked over her shoulder, nodded once to Blake, trailing behind her in a suit that didn't quite fit, and walked in. Inside, the room hushed. Her heels echoed down the aisle. She wanted it to feel like triumph. It didn't. Russell Dean was already seated at the plaintiff's table, his glasses perched low on his nose, yellow legal pad open in front of him like a sermon about to begin. Dolores Cray sat in the back pew, gloved hands folded over her purse, back straight, lips sealed. She'd brought a thermos of lemon tea and didn't plan to drink it. When Ginny entered, the room tilted. Same black wool dress, same brown shoes, hair pinned with the exact same barrette she'd worn to James's funeral. She walked without a word. Her pace wasn't slow, it was certain. As she passed Dolores, the usher gave her one slow nod. Ginny returned it with the faintest lift of her chin. She sat beside Russell without looking toward Tara or Blake. She didn't have to. Their nervous rustling did all the talking. The bailiff called the room to order. "All rise." The judge entered, same square glasses, same no-nonsense stare. "Be seated." She opened the file before her like she was dissecting a body. Case number 234-5B, continued hearing on the matter of Virginia M. Barron versus Blake James Barron. Allegations include... She paused and read aloud, her voice flat. "Forgery, misrepresentation, and fraudulent transfer of real property." A murmur swept the gallery. Ginny remained still. Blake fidgeted. Tara shifted her blazer slightly off her shoulders and leaned forward. "Your Honor, if I may..." The judge's eyes lifted, sharp. "You may not. You are not the defendant. He is." Tara sat back, face stung. Russell stood. "Your Honor, today we offer irrefutable proof that the property in question was transferred using a falsified signature, submitted electronically without authorization, and notarized by a digital agent whose license was revoked for malpractice. We also have comparative exhibits of Blake Barron's legitimate handwriting versus the submitted signature." He turned to Blake. "We've also subpoenaed bank statements showing no record of purchase, down payment, or legal transfer fees because the defendant never legally bought the house." The judge turned to Blake. "Is that true?" Blake stared at his hands. I thought it was handled." Tara whispered something furious into his shoulder. The judge raised a brow. "Handled by who?" Blake glanced at his wife, then at the floor. I signed what she gave me." Ginny watched without blinking. Russell stepped forward again. "Additionally, we submit Exhibit J, a new engraving made to restore the plaintiff's name to the front of her property gate, accompanied by the original documentation proving ownership from 1992 to present." The judge flipped through the file, lingered over the engraving photo, then looked up. "You filed for full reversal of the deed?" "We have," Russell confirmed. "Effective immediately." Beat of silence. The judge tapped her pen once, then once more. She looked at Blake. "Mr. Barron, you're not contesting the forgery?" "No, ma'am," he mumbled. "Then let the record show," she said, lifting the gavel, "that ownership of 12 Sycamore Lane is to be restored to Virginia M. Barron, effective today. All parties are prohibited from presenting themselves as owners or making financial decisions tied to said property. Penalties will follow if this order is violated." The gavel fell. Crack. Tara's face drained. Dolores sipped her tea. Ginny exhaled once, slow and silent. The courtroom hadn't emptied after the gavel fell. If anything, it had sharpened. The judge had ruled on the ownership, but Russell wasn't done. Not by a long shot. A second motion sat tucked beneath his folder like a blade still waiting to be unsheathed. He stood again, the judge's attention still on him. "Your Honor, with permission, we'd like to formally introduce Exhibit C for the court's record, pertinent to motive and intent." The judge gave a slight nod. Russell turned to the clerk, who dimmed the lights as a screen lowered behind the bench. He clicked once on the remote. A Facebook post filled the courtroom monitor, Tara and Blake on the front porch of 12 Sycamore mid-toast, wine glasses raised beneath a banner that read, "Official Homeowners. Power Couple. Signed, sealed, delivered." Russell let the photo sit for a moment. "Exhibit C," he said. "Uploaded by Tara Barron 2 weeks before the forged documents were officially filed. Note the use of past tense confirmation, signed and sealed, though no legal filing had been completed at that time." Tara crossed her arms, lips pursed. Blake looked like he wanted to disappear into his suit jacket. Russell clicked again. A second image popped up. Tara holding a pen mid-signature, a glass of champagne balanced on her laptop beside her. Caption: Digital deeds? Don't mind if I sign. Ha ha ha. A soft wave of oh damn laughter rippled through the gallery. The judge narrowed her eyes. Was that caption written by you, Mrs. Barron? Tara scoffed. It's obviously a joke. The judge cut her off. A poor one. Dolores Cray rose from the pew. Your Honor, if I may be sworn in? The judge glanced at Russell, who nodded. Proceed. Dolores approached the witness stand, spine straight, handbag still looped over one arm. After the oath, she cleared her throat delicately. I was present in the church foyer on April 28th. I overheard Tara Barron speaking to another guest near the coffee urns. She looked directly at Tara. You said, and I quote, we didn't even need Blake to sign it. I handled it digitally. Old people never check those platforms anyway. Gasps hissed through the room. One juror coughed. Tara's face went bone white. Blake stared at her like she'd suddenly started speaking a foreign language. Do you recall making that statement? The judge asked. Tara remained silent. Ginny rose from her seat. Your Honor, with your permission, I'd like to present the original tax record signature from 2006, 2011, and 2018, on file with the Chatham County Assessor's Office, containing my verified signature, compared to the one that was digitally removed in the disputed deed. She approached slowly, pages in hand. The judge studied them closely. Signatures match, consistent hand pressure, unique loops on the V and B. Ginny added quietly but firmly, my name wasn't just erased, it was overwritten, sloppily. The judge said nothing, but her fingers began tapping the desk again, faster this time. Then Russell stood again. One last piece. He turned to Maya, seated in the gallery. Maya hesitated, then stepped forward with a printed email in her trembling hands. She handed it to the bailiff, who passed it up to the judge. From anonymous@protonmail.com. Subject, evidence, IP address used to submit e-signature matches Tara Barron's personal device. Location, 12 Sycamore. Time, 3:14 p.m., April 24th, screenshot attached. The judge scanned the email. Who sent this? Maya lifted her chin. Does it matter if it's true? The judge said nothing for a moment, then handed the email back. I'll allow it for review. Russell sat down slowly, calm as a surgeon closing an incision. Ginny didn't move. Tara did. She reached for Blake's hand, but he didn't offer it. The sound of cardboard echoed through 12 Sycamore like a funeral hymn. Boxes slid across hardwood. Tape hissed. Closet doors creaked open and closed with the reluctant rhythm of something being undone too late. It wasn't even sundown yet. Blake stood at the bottom of the staircase, holding a stack of dress shirts and a shoebox of old college memorabilia. A framed wedding photo peeked out from the top of the pile, Tara's smile frozen mid-toast. He didn't look at it. Upstairs, Tara shoved sweaters into a suitcase she never liked. Her pristine white suit hung limply from the doorknob, still pressed from court that morning. Below, the front room began to empty, piece by curated piece. Throw pillows, framed quotes, a decorative bowl of fake lemons that had fooled no one. Maya sat on the couch, legs crossed, earbuds in, arms folded. Watching, not helping. You could try looking less smug, Tara snapped, appearing at the bottom step. Her eyes were red from either rage or exhaustion, maybe both. Maya pulled out one earbud. I'm not smug. Then what is this? Tara waved her hand toward her. You just sit there? Judging us? You don't say a word, don't lift a finger? You let your grandmother bulldoze this family like it's nothing, like we deserved this? Maya didn't flinch. I didn't let her. You did. Tara stared at her like she didn't recognize the girl in front of her. Unbelievable. Maya stood slowly. I'm going to Ginny's. If either of you need help packing, call a mover. Then she walked out the front door without another word. Across the street, Ginny stood at the edge of her garden gate, arms folded over her coat. The magnolia leaves whispered above her, scattering late summer yellow across the grass. Her expression was still. She didn't smile when Maya walked up the path. Boxes are showing up, Maya said. No one's talking. They never do, until they've run out of noise, Ginny said quietly. Maya leaned against the fence. She tried to make it my fault. It's easier to blame silence than face the echo, Ginny said. From her porch, Dolores Cray called out, waving a glass baking dish covered in foil. I come bearing cobbler, she announced. Best eaten after victory, or spite. Either way, it's got cinnamon. Maya smiled for the first time all day. Ginny walked to the porch steps and took the dish with a nod of gratitude. Russell's email buzzed in her inbox just as she sat it down. Subject: Final judgment filed. Enforcement copy en route. Registry updated. It's done. R.D. She stared at the screen a moment, then locked her phone. She didn't reply. Some things were meant to be said face to face. Back across the street, Tara stood frozen at the kitchen island, her laptop screen open to the realtor's listing dashboard. A single word pulsed in red at the top. Listing frozen. Legal ownership dispute filed. Access restricted. She refreshed. Again and again. Nothing changed. She picked up the phone and called the agency's office line. Hi, yes, this is Tara Barron. I'm trying to deactivate a listing. There's been an update to our plans. A pause. Then, ma'am, I'm seeing a court order on file. We're not allowed to remove or edit anything until the matter's settled. Tara gripped the edge of the counter. It was settled, just not in my favor. She hung up, quietly, then closed the laptop. At Ginny's dining table, Maya poked her fork into the warm cobbler. You think they'll actually move out? Ginny poured 2 glasses of iced tea. They don't have to believe it, just obey it. Maya blinked. You're not mad? I was. Then I decided to be finished. Maya nodded. A single box truck rumbled past outside. The envelope was plain. No dramatic seal, no legal flourish, just a cream-colored rectangle with a return address from the Chatham County Clerk's office. It sat untouched on the kitchen counter for most of the day, ignored while Blake wrestled with bubble wrap and Tara hovered over the thermostat like it might suddenly yield control back to her. It was Maya who saw it first. She didn't say a word, just picked it up and laid it in front of Tara like a waiter placing the check after an expensive meal no one could afford. Tara stared at it, then back at Maya. What is this? Maya didn't blink. Your reality. Tara tore it open with the edge of a manicure already chipped. She read it once. Then again. And a third time. Slower this time. Lips barely moving. Like reading it differently might change the outcome. Across the room, Blake stood still, box cutter in hand. Well? He asked. Tara didn't look up. Say it, Blake pushed. Tara's throat moved before her voice caught up. We lost. She handed him the judgment, and Blake read it aloud without needing permission. Final ruling. Full legal ownership of 12 Sycamore Lane is hereby restored to Virginia M. Barron. All previous filings and transfer attempts are declared null. All renovations completed under unauthorized ownership shall be compensated by the defendants, Blake and Tara Barron, within 90 days of judgment. He kept reading. The defendants are required to vacate the premises within 30 days of the date of this ruling. A long silence stretched between them. Tara leaned heavily on the kitchen counter. Her hands, once used to gripping wine glasses and social leverage, were now flat and open. She looked small. Blake finally asked, his voice hoarse, What do we even do now? From the hallway came Maya's voice, calm, unshaken. You get out of her house. Neither parent responded. Maya picked up her backpack from the hallway bench and slung it over her shoulder. She offered me the guest room, if I want it. Tara's head shot up. You're serious? I'm tired of living in someone else's lies, Maya said. Tara opened her mouth to reply, but whatever she meant to say got lost between pride and panic. Maya walked out without slamming the door. At Ginny's house, the kettle whistled just as Maya stepped onto the porch. Ginny was already at the table with 2 mugs and a folder sealed with a courthouse stamp. She didn't ask what brought Maya over. She just poured the tea. Maya sat. They got the judgment. I know, Ginny said. Russell forwarded the copy. They didn't take it well. Ginny stirred honey into her cup. People who build their lives on stolen ground rarely do. Maya hesitated, then asked, Is it weird that it doesn't feel like revenge? Ginny met her eyes. It's not revenge, it's restoration. Across the street, the mood in 12 Sycamore had turned ghostly. Tara tried to cancel the realtor listing for the 4th time. Still locked. She refreshed the dashboard again. Nothing. Blake sat at the dining table, the judgment copy beside him, staring at a wall like it had betrayed him. Tara paced. We're going to fight it. Appeal. Sue. Blake didn't even look up. With what money? She stopped pacing. Then what? We just roll over? He shrugged. It's her house. Was always her house. You're the one who thought we could take it like a souvenir. Tara threw her phone across the couch. It bounced but didn't break. Nothing was breaking the right way anymore. The sun was high and merciless. August had burned the sidewalks pale. The air smelled like warm dust and wilted magnolia. Across 12 Sycamore Lane, 2 uniformed movers pushed a dolly over the warped threshold of the front porch, balancing a box labeled wine racks, fragile in one hand and a tuft of velvet throw pillows in the other. The last of Tara's curated life was leaving, slow, one box at a time. Ginny stood at the sidewalk, same brown shoes, same black dress, creased now with time, but untouched by defeat. Her arms were folded, her eyes steady. She didn't gloat. She witnessed. Inside, the movers said little. Their movements were efficient, practiced. They weren't part of the war, just called to carry its spoils. Blake handed off a final box, something small and rattling. No one asked what was inside. Tara hovered by the fireplace one last time. Her sunglasses were on, though no one could see her crying. Her face was red around the edges, flushed not from heat, but from something deeper. Humiliation she couldn't polish away. Maya stood at the edge of the porch, backpack slung over one shoulder. She glanced back once before stepping down to Ginny's side. She left the good dishes, Maya said quietly. Ginny gave a faint shrug. Maybe she thinks they won't break without her. Maya looked up at her. I hope one day I grow into those shoes. Ginny didn't smile, but the corner of her mouth curved. They're heavier than they look. Tara came out just then, heels clacking against the wood, the sharp rhythm of someone pretending not to limp. She didn't look at Maya, didn't look at Ginny either, until she passed her. This isn't over, she said, voice flat and venom-laced. Ginny replied without flinching. No, dear, it's recorded. Tara stopped in her tracks. Ginny gestured toward the front door, where a yellow paper now flapped gently in the breeze, taped over the welcome sign that once read, Good Vibes Only. Official Notice of Judgment Enforcement, Chatham County Superior Court. Property title, 12 Sycamore Lane. Legal owner, Virginia M. Barron. Case, 234-5. B. Final and non-appealable. Status, enforcement in effect. A black and white seal at the bottom sealed its fate. Tara turned away, fast. Blake followed, his shoulders slumped, his hands shoved deep in the pockets of a blazer that no longer belonged to a man with a porch to lean on. One of the movers nodded toward Ginny as he rolled the final box down the driveway. All cleared, ma'am. Property's yours. Ginny gave a polite nod. Always was. He tipped his cap. Nice garden, by the way. She watched them drive off in a truck that coughed dust behind it, a final exhale. Maya walked up the front steps, slowly, reverently, like she was stepping back into something sacred. Ginny followed behind her, hand grazing the railing James built long before Blake grew tall enough to help. They didn't say anything as they passed through the front door, but something shifted, like air exhaling, a closing, and a beginning. Inside, the house was hollow. Not empty, just cleared. The walls felt taller again. The light came in softer through the windows without the garish velvet drapes. In the corner of the entryway, Ginny's plaque leaned against the wall, Virginia M. Barron, original owner, waiting to be hung again. Maya dropped her bag on the stairs and turned to Ginny. Where do you want to start? Ginny looked around, then nodded toward the kitchen. Let's get the real dishes out. The paint roller moved slow and steady across the wall, pale blue bleeding over the old beige-like memory softening into clarity. Ginny stood in her socks, sleeves rolled to her elbows, a plastic tarp crinkling underfoot. A radio on the windowsill hummed an old Sam Cooke song, low, gentle, half prayer, half promise. The guest room, her room, was becoming hers again. Maya sat cross-legged on the floor, unpacking a box labeled legal/personal. She held up a framed photo. James in his gray suit, Ginny in a wide-brimmed hat, both smiling like the camera had caught them in the middle of a secret. Ginny didn't turn around. Windowsill. Maya walked it over and placed it beside two other items already lined up with care. James's Bible, worn soft at the corners, and the scuffed brown court shoes, the ones Tara had once mocked, the ones Ginny had walked in anyway. Sunlight spilled across the sill like acknowledgement. Ginny stepped back from the wall. "Second coat'll hold better," she murmured. Maya set the empty box aside. "You want help with the shelf?" Ginny handed her a screwdriver without answering. Together they knelt, bolts scattered between them. The shelf was simple, white, sturdy. They built it slowly, deliberately, neither speaking much. Nails clicked, wood creaked, the radio played on. Once upright, Ginny began placing things. Top shelf, the court ruling in a leather binder. Second shelf, photocopies of every exhibit. Third shelf, a smaller folder labeled Maya's copy. Maya tilted her head. "What's that one?" "In case I'm not here one day," Ginny said, matter of fact. Maya frowned. "That's morbid." "It's prepared." Ginny stood, cracked the window open. A breeze wandered in, gentle and sweet, rustling the lace curtain. Outside, cicadas buzzed their approval, like they'd been waiting for this moment too. "I haven't opened this window in 3 years," Ginny said softly. "You should," Maya said. "The air still knows you." Downstairs, the doorbell rang. Maya wiped her hands on her jeans. "I got it." Ginny nodded and returned to the wall, touching a faint paint streak with her finger. When Maya opened the door, Dolores Cray stood on the porch with a pitcher of sweet tea and a small cardboard box. "Afternoon," Dolores said. "Thought the paint fumes might need a chaser." Maya grinned and took the tea. "What's in the box?" A new mailbox plate, Russell pulled strings, courthouse engraving, official seal included. She held it out like a trophy, etched across brushed aluminum Virginia M. Barron, legal owner, 12 Sycamore Lane. Maya turned it over in her hands, her voice quieter. "She'll love it." Upstairs, Ginny stood before the freshly painted wall. Pale blue caught the light like hope. She didn't cry. She'd done that already. This was not grief. This was reclamation. Maya entered the room again, holding the plate. Ginny took it in both hands. "Where'd it come from?" "Dolores and Russell." Ginny nodded once. "Then it'll last longer than the last one." They stood in silence. Then Maya said, "You're not just a widow, you know." Ginny arched an eyebrow. "No?" "You're a wall." Ginny blinked. "People push," Maya continued. "They lean, they scratch, and you stay standing." Ginny didn't answer at first. She just turned to look at the shelf, the photo, the breeze still drifting through the open window. Then she smiled, small but real. "You'll be one too someday," she said. Maya shrugged. "Maybe, if I'm lucky." Ginny placed a hand on her shoulder. "Luck's not enough, but it's a start." The porch swing creaked a lullaby of ownership. Ginny sat with her feet propped on the rail, legs crossed at the ankle, her shoes placed neatly beside her. The brown ones, the same scuffed court shoes she wore through every hearing, every storm, every silence Tara mistook for surrender. The house behind her glowed faintly in the late afternoon sun. Not grand, not modern, just hers. Across the lawn, Maya sat in the shade of the magnolia tree, charcoal smudges on her hands and knees. She held her sketch pad steady, eyes flicking between the porch and the page, her pencil dancing over the lines of the shutters, the eaves, the trim, every stroke laid with care. "Your roof's crooked," she called. Ginny didn't look up. Life usually is. Maya smiled and kept drawing. The mailbox stood proudly now, Tara's name long scraped off, buffed out like a bad dream. In its place, a gleaming metal plate, newly drilled in. Virginia M. Barron, legal owner, 12 Sycamore Lane. No hashtags, no filters, just fact. A familiar rumble approached from down the block. Russell's old Chevy coasted to a stop, and he emerged with dust on his jeans and a bottle in his hand. He held it up. "Sherry, mid-tier, but the cork's real." Ginny raised an eyebrow. "You bring glasses?" Russell reached into the paper bag. "2." He took the porch steps, slow. When he sat beside her, the swing shifted slightly, like it had been expecting him. "Justice," he said, uncorking the bottle with a practiced twist, "is sweeter with dust on the boots." Ginny held out her hand. "Then pour before it cools." They sipped in silence a moment, the kind of silence that earned its peace. No sirens, no arguments. Just the soft breeze rustling the magnolia leaves and the quiet scratch of Maya's charcoal in the grass. "Anything else coming down the pipeline?" Ginny asked finally. Russell shook his head. "Title's clean. Court's satisfied. Tax office stamped everything this morning." He glanced at the shoes beside her. "You keeping those ready just in case?" Ginny took another sip. "Retiring them." She stood, walked inside, and returned with a glass shadow box in her arms. Inside it, the brown shoes, now resting on a velvet cushion, scuffs and all. A small brass plaque read, "Exhibit A, never count out the quiet woman." Russell let out a low whistle. "You're putting those on display?" Ginny eased the case onto the porch table like it belonged in a museum. "They earned it." Maya walked up just then, her sketch finished, hands still dark from the charcoal. She studied the shoes. "Feels like a trophy." Ginny nodded once. "Or a weapon." The doorbell rang. All three turned their heads. Ginny rose slowly, the swing settling behind her. She walked across the hardwood foyer, past the shelf of court documents, the guest room painted sky blue, and opened the door. A young girl stood there, maybe 15, maybe 16. Oversized backpack, nervous smile, voice quiet but brave. "Miss Ginny?" she asked. "My mom said you used to work in law?" Ginny stepped onto the porch, tilting her head. "Still do, now and then." The girl fidgeted. "I have this school project on property rights and, well, my teacher said if anyone could explain what precedent meant in real life, it'd be you." Behind her, Russell chuckled. Ginny didn't answer at first. She looked past the girl, down the street that had once tried to forget her, and failed. Then she looked back at the girl. "Come by tomorrow," she said. "Bring questions." The girl smiled wide. "Yes, ma'am." As the girl turned to leave, Maya bumped Ginny's shoulder. "Recruiting already?" "Just returning the favor," Ginny said. Russell tipped his bottle in her direction. "Legacy wears different shoes." Ginny picked up the shadow box again, nodded toward the entryway. "I think I know where they go now." And as she stepped back inside her house, her home, she looked over her shoulder once, only once, and said, "She laughed at the shoes. I walked all over her with them."